This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you, my friend. A review of MSC Seashore this week, and playing a little bit of catch up with the news because we missed staff writer Richard Sims last week. Actually, it's my fault that he wasn't here, but he's here now. Hello, Richard.
Hey, Doug. Nice attempt to blame it on me when you're the one traveling around the world.
Yeah, I could not get a good signal or a good spot in Indonesia when I was hiking last week, so I just had to say, we're going to push it to next week. So that we did. We're going to kick things off with our first story here, which was, it happened back over this summer, and it's a situation that could have totally been avoided.
Not just could have, but should have, Doug. This is an update on a story that unfolded back in, I think it was late June, in which a 5-year-old girl fell off the Disney Dream. And you'll recall that after she plunged from the ship into the water, her dad dove in, and both of them were rescued, and it fortunately had a very, very happy ending. But we're now learning, that we're kind of getting confirmation of what we always say. We always say it is not easy to fall off a cruise ship. Sometimes you read these stories and they make it sound as if you're just walking along and whoops, you fell off. And that's not the case usually. I mean, ever, really. In this particular case, we now have authorities reporting that the mom allegedly asked the little girl to sort of climb into this open porthole, thinking it would make a cute picture. And the little girl sat down, then lost her balance, fell backwards, and fell off the ship. Then the dad dived in and rescued her. So, that is what we now know, is that this wasn't, as we always say, you don't want to do things like that. You don't sit on railings, don't take chances. I mean, you have to keep in mind that it is a perfectly safe environment as long as you are following the rules. But when you start doing, crazy things for Instagram pictures or whatever, it can not go so well. And that, fortunately, they are so lucky that this little girl and her dad both survived.
Yeah, man, because that cruise ship propeller has no mercy if you get close to it.
That's not even just a cruise ship propeller. I mean, you fall off a ship, it's quite a big height. You could land wrong and snap there's a million things that could go wrong. Nothing good comes of falling off a ship. And unfortunately, our next story tells that exact story, because it's another case of a man overboard, this time from the Norwegian Jewel. We don't exactly know the circumstances under which this happened, but we do know that someone went overboard from the Norwegian Jewel when the ship was traveling between Portugal and Miami. In a statement to Cruise Radio, Norwegian said, and I'm quoting here, "We are deeply saddened to confirm that on Monday, October 20th, we were notified that a guest was reported to have gone overboard." The statement went on to say that the authorities were immediately notified, all the proper channels were alerted, and a search and rescue effort was mounted involving multiple agencies, multiple vessels. Unfortunately, the man was not found and is presumed dead.
Meanwhile, a few changes over at NCL, including one that I'm pretty sure you're not very happy about.
Yeah, you're kind of right in that I don't like where this could be going. But let me explain. So we're hearing from several guests that the Freestyle Daily, which is that line's program of what's happening around the ship, is no longer being automatically distributed. Upon doing a little more checking, it seems that this is sort of true in that it's not necessarily being automatically left in your stateroom each evening. You can, however, still request that it be given to you or pick up a copy at various places around the ship, like guest services or whatever. Obviously, they're trying to shift people toward using the app instead of the Freestyle Daily. I mean, it's hard to argue against this, given that it saves paper, it saves money, but I'm sorry, I love me a daily newsletter. There's nothing I like more than at the end of the night going back to my room and, you go in and you find your bed's all made up and you've got that Freestyle Daily sitting there, and I usually bring a highlighter and I go through and I mark all the things that I want to do tomorrow. So I understand the logic of taking it away, but I really hope they don't fully take it away because I guarantee you, up until that day, I will be requesting one every time I am on a ship. The other change, which obviously has the nickel and dime crowd, sort of ticked off, is with regards to room service, where Norwegian is now limiting how much you can order in an individual order. Basically, it boils down to each passenger in a stateroom being able to order 2 meals off the all-day dining menu. And when you're ordering off the breakfast menu, you can order 1 hot item and 1 cold item. The price remains the same at $9.95 per room service order from the all-day menu and $4.95 per breakfast order. They say this is to help cut down on food waste and increase efficiencies and stuff like that. And much like with the daily newsletter, I can kind of see both sides. There was a time when room service on most ships was entirely free. And I think people probably, mostly ordered responsible. But once the cruise line started slapping fees on room service, people did what people will do. And they said, well, if you're going to charge me, $5, $9, $10, whatever for an order of room service, I'm going to stock up. I'm going to order like everything I think I could possibly want to eat in the next 12 hours. And I'll put it in my fridge and I'll save some. And obviously this does lead to food waste. So there's blame to go around, from the cruise lines looking to save money to guests trying to essentially game the system. But at the end of the day, I think most cruise lines now are charging at least something for room service. Norwegian has been making some changes lately that don't particularly thrill people, including, adding charges to ordering extra meals in the dining room, that kind of thing. So you start to see after a while exactly what the nickel and dime crew get upset about. And I remember, not that long ago, going on a couple of Norwegian cruises where it was literally all inclusive. You had the drink package, free room service, all of that. And I really wouldn't mind if cruising kind of headed back in that direction. Charge me more if you have to, but stop charging me for everything. Like, I want when I've paid my bill, I want my bill to have been paid.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I think we may have covered 1 or 2 of these too. So that's like 5 changes over the past, month and a half, because they also, they axed the drinks on Great Stirrup Cay, and they also added that no-show fee for if you're more than 10 minutes late at a specialty dining restaurant, which I firmly believe that should be added there anyways if you waste people's time. But that's 5 changes in 45 days?
Yeah, it's a lot. And none of them are changes other than, I agree with you. I think the fee for not showing up for a restaurant, I agree with that one as well, because, there's a lot of people who want to go to those specialty restaurants and it can be really hard to get those reservations. So if they're holding a bunch of tables and no one shows up, then, they're losing money. People aren't getting into the restaurant who want to eat there. So I agree with that one. But most of the other ones, which basically involve paying for things that were formerly free, like that thing where your drink package doesn't work on Great Stirrup Cay anymore, that is annoying, especially since they then turned around and said, oh, while your drink package doesn't work here, we are going to create a whole new drink package that you can buy separately. Like, man, way to make it clear that this is all about the money.
Yeah. And Carnival Cruise Line found a way to make lemonade out of lemons when bad weather forced an itinerary shift.
Yeah, you have to admire Carnival when it comes to spinning a story, because honestly, nobody does it better. In this case, the Carnival Legend wound up having to change its itinerary. They were doing a 16-day repositioning cruise, and they were slated to visit Cabo San Lucas, but those plans were changed because a hurricane was coming in. So they quickly, made some calls and do whatever you have to do to send your ship somewhere else. And they wound up going to Acapulco, Mexico. Some very smart person in the PR department looked at this and said, hey, we haven't had a ship visit Acapulco in 15 years. Next thing you know, they've turned skipping a scheduled port into them visiting somewhere exciting that they don't normally go. And they sent out a press release, and it was, they made what could have been a bad situation kind of awesome. And that, my friend, is downright brilliant. Better still, they were able to use the resulting press release to pimp a Carnival Journeys sailing they're doing in 2027, not even 2026, 2027, because it's also going to be going to Acapulco. I'm going to be honest. I thought cruise ships went I thought they went to Acapulco all the time. I didn't realize that this wasn't really, a normal stop for Carnival. So good for them bringing this all to, taking a bad situation and making it awesome.
Didn't a lot of famous people go to Acapulco back in the day, like Sinatra and Elvis and such?
Yeah, I feel like, it was definitely always on the itinerary, along with Puerto Vallarta on the
Oh,
Love Boat. So, I mean, yeah, I feel like Acapulco used to be a really hot spot. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the streaming services has a series called Acapulco that's set in like the 80s and features, people having adventures in Acapulco. So yeah, I've never been to Acapulco. Have you ever been?
I have. It's beautiful. Yeah, and you could see why John Wayne and everyone spent so much time down there. It's secluded, it's beautiful, mountainous, and yeah, chef's kiss for sure.
All right, now I have to look at this 2027 cruise that Carnival's
Yeah.
doing and think about going to Acapulco in a couple of years.
Yeah, and speaking of Carnival, brand ambassador John Heald set the record straight on, well, a couple of things over the past week.
Yeah, he's been very busy. I mean, say what you will about John Heald, but he is the person who puts it all out there. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but he is on the front lines and he is the person that people go to both for their news and with their complaints. They say you should try and learn something new every day, and thanks to this story, I did. From what I gather, guests on what I believe is the current sailing of the Carnival Sunshine wrote to John Heald complaining that, they had been told via a letter that they were going to be doing the old style muster drill. Now, you'll remember that after COVID, almost every ship and almost every cruise line shifted so that people wouldn't be gathering together the way we always had for muster drills. And instead, we started doing this thing where you watch a video in your room and then you run down to your muster station and they scan your card and you're done. And it's nice and easy. People were not thrilled to hear that they were going to have to be doing the old fashioned muster drill. And John Heald explained that no, Carnival wasn't bringing back the old style muster drill, but apparently every ship is required by various regulations to do the old style muster drill at least twice a year. So, I did not know that. I had no idea. So apparently, it just happened that these people who got this letter were on one of the two sailings this year of the Carnival Sunshine that are doing the old style muster drill. Some other stuff that John Heald broke, he addressed tips. He gets hammered about tips all the time. And this came about because some influencer somewhere posted that tips basically were being used in place of the salary that crew members receive. And John Heald went on to, sort of say, listen, here's how it works. The crew gets a paycheck. It is a guaranteed paycheck. It is a certain rate. Tips, the daily gratuities, are divided among them, and then anything you give them personally goes directly to them. So if you give your cabin steward $20, that's his. It doesn't go to anybody else. And, he really wanted to make it clear that, excuse me, yes, the crew don't make a huge amount of money, certainly not by American standards, but they do get a set amount. They have a paycheck that is guaranteed to them. Tips are above and beyond that, whether it's the daily gratuities that are being divided or the tips that you're providing. The other little bit of Carnival news here is that in, I believe it's May of 2027, because, we're continuing to talk about, far-flung schedules so that people can book them early and people can, and cruise lines can get that deposit money and start earning interest on it. But the Carnival Valor is going to be sailing out of Mobile, Alabama year-round. So that's a little change that's happening there. I believe right now it's sailing out of New Orleans, and it'll continue to sail out of there for now. And then in 2020, March or May of 2027, spring of 2027, basically, Valor will reposition and it will begin sailing out of Mobile, Alabama year round. So good news for folks in Mobile. It's a Conquest class ship, and I guess it is slightly larger than the ships that are sailing out of Mobile now. So it gives a little bit more capacity out of that area.
And some lucky Royal Caribbean guests are given the opportunity to check out the Lions' new beach club before anyone else does.
Yeah. So imagine opening an email from Royal Caribbean expecting your typical update on your upcoming cruise. I mean, I have several cruises booked and I'm constantly getting things saying, hey, now's the opportunity to go and save 10% by buying your drink package now or whatever. In this case, though, these are people who are heading to Nassau and they're being invited to check out the hot new beach club weeks before it actually opens to the public. According to the Royal Caribbean blog, that's what's going on, is that guests are receiving emails saying, here's a free pass for you and anyone booked in your stateroom. And by the way, this free pass to the island includes open bar, so that's kind of nice. It's a soft opening, which means it's likely not everything will be up and running or fully available, but it's a good chance for Royal Caribbean to sort of see what's working, train their staff, make sure everything's going on. It's really important to note here that when the beach club officially opens, which is in December, late December actually, it'll be very different from their other destination, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. The big difference is that this beach club comes at a cost. Perfect Day, you can go and it's free. You can buy things. You can buy passes to the water park or passes to, certain adult areas and stuff like that. But you can also go to Perfect Day and never spend a penny. That is not going to be the case at the beach club. This Nassau Beach Club comes at a cost. So, they're expecting that about 1 million guests a year will pay for access to it. And this is kind of Royal Caribbean trying to rewrite the narrative or maybe take advantage of the narrative that there's nothing worth doing in Nassau. We've heard that for years and years. People complain about Nassau being kind of a bummer of a stop. I think that Nassau has made a lot of progress in that area with the port redevelopment that they've done. It's a completely different port than it was even just 2 or 3 years ago. This is the first time we're seeing a cruise line do something that sort of directly competes with, say, Atlantis. A lot of people, when they go to Nassau, wind up going over to Atlantis or the other resort there. Well, they'll pay a lot of money to go and hang out at the water park. Well, here you will be able to give your money directly to Royal Caribbean and then go and hang out at their beach club, which honestly, last time I was in Nassau, I saw a little bit of the construction that was going on. And they also had on display in the port, they had a display of what the new private destination will include and, kind of a model of what it'll look like. And it seemed pretty incredible. I don't know exactly. I've seen some preliminary stuff about pricing, and it certainly won't be cheap, but there'll be different packages you can buy, including ones with alcohol, ones without alcohol. You can also, of course, they will have big cabanas and stuff that you can rent. Some will cost you several hundred. Some of the cabanas that hold more people and include more perks will cost a lot more than that. But I kind of love that they're doing this and that some people are getting this invitation to check it out for free. I really look forward to hearing their reports about, what this new destination offers.
All right. Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, man.
As always, I'm coming to you from Woodstock. Where are you? I have no idea where in the world you are right now, given how much you've been jumping around.
Yeah. So I went from Indonesia to the Philippines to Qatar, or Qatar, I guess they call it locally. And then I flew to Barcelona yesterday. And right now I'm sitting in my stateroom on Princess Cruises, Star Princess, about to leave Barcelona in a few minutes and start trekking our way, west towards Port Everglades.
Wow. So how's the ship? What's your first impression?
I like it so far. They've made a little bit of change from the Sun Princess, which is good as far as eating and dispersing guests at certain spots that were congested on there. To be honest, I'm so damn tired. I just ate earlier and then I've been in my room. So I'll have to give you more on that later.
Yeah, if I know anything about you, it's that at some point in the very near future, you are going to crash for about 20 hours
Yeah,
because you have got to be jet lagged to hell and back.
certainly, man. All right. Well, we'll catch up next week.
Talk to you then.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips at cruiseradio.net.
Margie just returned from a 3-night sailing on MSC Cruises Seashore, a ship that came out in 2021. Sailing from Port Canaveral, she joins us on the line to talk about her experience on her very first MSC cruise. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and giving your very first cruise review of MSC. We've kind of chatted a little bit before the interview, and you've sailed a gamut from Cunard, Celebrity, a lot of sailings on Royal and such. So very curious to see what you thought of MSC in the North American market. You're up there in the Atlanta, Georgia area. What made you want to sail this 3-nighter down here in Port Canaveral?
Well, my daughter and I work for travel agency, and we just picked up MSC, and I'd heard really mixed reviews. So I wanted to check it out for myself to see how it was. And I had a few days off around the 4th of July. So we were going to book the 4th of July, wound up booking the week after just because we were able to get into the yacht club. Nice. And that sounded fabulous. So we went ahead and booked a quick 3-nighter to check them out.
So you come down from Atlanta to Central Florida. Is that a drive for you, or do you fly out of Atlanta?
We usually drive. It's about 7 hours, and that way we can sneak in a day or two at either Disney or Universal before or after.
Did you do the park that just opened? What is it called? Epic?
It's Epic Universe. We did not this time, but we have done Epic, of course.
Yeah, I want to check it out, but I'm waiting for it to get a little bit cooler before I head down there for the day. So very nice.
That's probably very smart.
So you make your way over to Port Canaveral to board the MSC Seashore. What was your embarkation thoughts, and how long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship?
Well, we parked and walked over and saw this very, very, very long line, and we were like, oh, this is going to be kind of painful. And then we saw a little blue tent that said Yacht Club, and we walked right up. They checked us in and escorted us over to an elevator right into the terminal. They greeted us at the terminal and walked us over to another little area that said Yacht Club and handed each of us a glass of champagne and asked us to grab a seat while they checked us in. And somebody came over with an iPad to check us in. So it was the absolute best embarkation experience I think I've ever had. And from our car to getting on the ship was probably less than 15 minutes. And most of that was sitting enjoying a glass of champagne.
I love it. Now, when it's time to board the ship, are you boarding with everyone else, or is there a private entrance?
No, my husband's in a wheelchair. So we went up the elevator. I don't know if that's specific for Yacht Club, but that's where they directed us to go. And as soon as we got off the elevator, they showed us right where the Yacht Club was.
Being that this was your first MSC cruise and first time in the Yacht Club, obviously, give me your first impressions, and what did you think?
Well, the ship was huge and it was beautiful. I'd always heard really nice things about the decor on an MSC ship, and it was really elegant. When we got to the Yacht Club, you scan in with your card, and once you're in that Yacht Club, they call it a ship within a ship experience. And it really was. Once we were in there, it was like we were in a whole different world. Our room steward came out and greeted us in the lounge and said our room was ready anytime we wanted to go in. He took us to the room, showed us around, showed us all the areas of the Yacht Club. There was a private lounge for the Yacht Club, private pool area. It was just wonderful. So it was very spoiling. I dare say we probably shouldn't have done that the first time, because now we're not going to want to do anything but the yacht club.
You mentioned there's a lounge, a pool, a sun deck up there. It has its own restaurant too?
It does. It has its own restaurant. And at the pool and in the lounge, they always had a small little buffet. So you were never wanting for food, even if you never left the yacht club.
And when you're staying in the yacht club, do you automatically get the drink package?
Yes.
That's a nice incentive. What did you think of the other areas around the ship?
They had a lot of really cool areas for kids. We cruise a lot with our grandkids, so I had an eye out for that. It's a very big ship. They had a lot of different venues and different things. It seemed really to have a little bit of everything as you walked throughout the ship.
What kind of stateroom did you have inside the yacht club, and how was your experience through the 3 nights?
Now, we did an interior stateroom. To be honest, we just booked yacht club and didn't realize they even had interiors in the yacht club, and started looking at it and was like, what the heck, we'll just give it a shot. The interior was the biggest room we've ever stayed in. My husband can walk. He just uses the wheelchair because it's difficult for him to stand for long periods of time. Mm-hmm. So we never asked for an accessible cabin, but they had given us an accessible cabin. So that was kind of nice. The bathroom was huge. The room was huge. And we could walk out our door and walk 10 steps and be in the lounge. So then I had access to, if I wanted to sit outside and work, if I wanted to sit in the lounge by the window. So it was almost like having a super large balcony just 10 feet away from our room, but all the nice, quiet peacefulness of an interior room.
Pardon my ignorance here. You mentioned your husband was in a wheelchair. Is it an actual wheelchair or one of those scooters where you have to bring it inside the cabin or park outside?
No, it's a wheelchair.
Okay, gotcha. How up to date was the technology in the stateroom?
The room had lots of storage. That's kind of one of the things you look for. It did not have a lot of plugs. We are smart enough to remember to carry extension cords, not the ones with circuit breakers, because you have to, they'll confiscate those, but just a generic extension cord. And he had to use that for his CPAP machine at night because there was no outlet next to the bed, which was odd. But the room was beautiful. As far as the decor, it seemed to be the focus was on the decor. It was very elegant, but I don't think it was quite as practical, like with the outlets as some of the other ships I've sailed.
Every yacht club room comes with a butler. How far, above and beyond will they go compared to if you were just sailing in a regular stateroom, let's say on Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, or Carnival?
I don't know. I felt kind of bad always asking him for stuff. He was always like, can I do anything? Do you need me to do this? Do you need me to do that? I'm like, no, I got it. I'm fine. I'm good. But he was fantastic, always around. With so many of the cruise lines going to just making up your cabin once a day, it was really nice to have it made up twice a day. Again, I've not stayed concierge at any other cruise line, so I'm not sure. But let me tell you, at the yacht club, the service was over and above.
Felt the same way when I was lucky enough to sail in the Haven a few years ago at the restart. NCL Getaway, the butler wanted to do everything, unpack my bags. And I'm just, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, just keep bringing me the gummy worms every day and we're good. I don't want you to, go hand over foot with me. With the main dining room and the dining all together, we'll stick in the yacht club here. Did you do all of your meals as far as dinners and such in the main dining or in the yacht club dining room?
Well, now we did dinner every night in the yacht club. But twice we went up to the Marketplace buffet for lunch. And then one morning we had, our butler asked us if he would like us to bring breakfast to the room. And, I've done that on many ships where it's just coffee and pastries and fruit. And he's like, well, what would you like? And I'm like, well, I don't know, just fruit. And he's like, would you like something else? Eggs, bacon? I'm like, really? I can have all that? And he brought us a latte for my coffee, brought a mimosa because he said I was on vacation and needed to enjoy that, brought us an omelet, bacon, fruit. It was like a little bitty mini buffet that he brought to the room.
That's awesome. Now, Yeah, you mentioned the buffet there, so let's talk about the buffet. So what did you think of the buffet and your time in there? Did it ever feel too crowded?
It felt a little crowded, but they had a lot of different stations. So you didn't have to wait in a long line. Like if you wanted something a few rows down, you didn't have to wait behind people going through this section. You could just walk over to whatever it was that you wanted to eat. So although there were a lot of people, we didn't have to really wait for long periods of time for anything.
Being a first-time MSC cruiser, what did you think of the quality of food in the buffet?
I thought it was good. I thought it was a little exotic. My husband has a much more adventurous palate than I do, and he loved it. I was a little pickier and had to search a little bit more to find things that I liked. In the yacht club, the meals were very exotic. And the second night, I asked our waiter, I said, can I just get, because I saw somebody else with a shrimp cocktail. I said, can I just get a shrimp cocktail? And he's like, you can have anything you want. And so for the next 2 nights, I did get shrimp cocktail and French onion soup.
There you go.
Because it's not a cruise if you don't have French onion soup, right?
You got that right. With the, like you mentioned, you were having to search for things in the buffet. Was it more of like geared towards like a European palate?
Yes, I think so.
Outside of your dinners in the yacht club and also the buffet for lunch and such, did you do any other specialty restaurants or grab and go places?
We did not. It was such a short cruise, and there was just so much food at the yacht club. We did do the little mini buffets at the yacht club by the pool, and the other 2 mornings for breakfast, I just did the little mini buffets in the lounge for the yacht club.
All right. Well, let's talk about the entertainment on board the MSC Seashore for the 3 nights you were there. What did you think of it?
We absolutely loved it. It was mostly just musical reviews, but my background is music, and I love watching entertainers sing and dance. Our favorite, they had a show called Rock Royalty, and they rocked out, and it was just incredible, the talent level of the performers. And we were a little spoiled because we tend to run late for things. But with the yacht club, we could walk into the theater about 5 minutes before the show started, and they had a section roped off, and we could sit about halfway back, right in the middle, and have great seats to watch this.
Nice. You mentioned you have an entertainment background, and before we started recording here, you were saying that you were working at Six Flags over Georgia. What kind of show were you in?
I was in the Riverboat Ramble show, which was the last live show that they ever had at Six Flags over Georgia, where the band and the singing was all done live every single show. Back
in the good old days before everything was tracked.
Right.
How about outside of the theater, maybe like in the main promenade area or a bar and lounge that you may have, found yourself going to? They
always had solo performers or small group performers throughout the ship, but we didn't really stop and listen to any of those. We made it a point to see the main show every night, and that was kind of it.
That's a nice perk, too, getting those priority seats being yacht club.
It was really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sea days, on a 3-night cruise like this with 2 different stops, I take it there is no sea days, correct? You leave Port Canaveral, it's a port stop, then back to Canaveral? Okay, so no sea days, but as the ship was transiting, say, from Port Canaveral to Ocean Key or what have you, how was the ship as far as crowds and congestion?
We did go to check out the pools. We're pool people. We love hanging out in the pools. And Nassau, we kind of treat like a sea day. Mm-hmm. The other pools were really not crowded. As a matter of fact, we found a couple of extra little pools that were tucked away here and there on the ship. So it seemed like they had enough so that everybody could be somewhere without it being just wall-to-wall people. Mm-hmm. But again, it wasn't a true sea day. It was, Nassau. But we didn't think it was overly crowded. There seemed to be enough stuff to do. They had a lot of small venues. They had a sports bar and different activities going on. So it seemed to pull people in different directions to thin out the crowds.
All right, that's good to hear. And how about the casino as far as the smoke situation in or around it?
We're not really gamblers, but our favorite bartender was right outside the casino, and we never really noticed smoke when we were there getting a drink before the show. Mm-hmm. But they did have a sports bar, and it did look like there was maybe smoking in the sports bar where they had some casino tables affiliated with the sports bar.
Okay. I'm trying to think on this one. Is the casino more towards the front of the ship or towards the back of the ship?
I'm not really sure. I know we went past it every time we went to the theater.
Right, yeah. So it might be towards the front.
But I mean, we really didn't notice any smoke.
That's the one that's New York themed, right? Like there's like a Statue of Liberty there.
Yes,
okay.
Because they had the Brooklyn Cafe.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, then, so let's talk about the ports of call then. You went to Ocean Key, the Marine Reserve, which is their private island. We'll start there first. Since this was your first time sailing MSC and obviously your first time on their island, what did you think of the island and how would you compare it to the other ones you have been?
Everybody's private island has different things and different benefits. We do love just hanging out in the water. So it was nice. The beach was nice. It was a little rocky. We were kind of disappointed by that. I hear a lot of people talk about the lack of umbrellas and chairs, but we're not really layout kind of people. So I didn't really even pay attention if there were umbrellas. We did go straight to the Yacht Club's restaurant on the island, and the food was excellent. We saw a lot of people in the water while we were eating, like on jet skis and doing parasailing. So they must have those excursions available, but we didn't do that. We did go to the one side that was exclusively for Yacht Club, and it was very rocky. So we went back over to the other side that was available for everyone, and we actually found that to be a much smoother sand and a little easier place to swim and hang out in the ocean.
That's an interesting piece because it's basically a man-made island there with tons of rocks and stuff dug up. Was it rocky everywhere?
That would be my guess because, I mean, the land portion looked fine and it wasn't super rocky, but it's just that side of the island. You're going to get more brought in from the ocean. So I don't think they can do anything there to fix that.
You would think that would have been addressed before they decided to put the Yacht Club way out there in that corner.
You'd
but
think.
Maybe not. You said every cruise line has something very special and unique about their destination. What did you find that to be at MSC?
Well, now they've got the Marine Conservation Center. Mm-hmm. We did not do a tour, but we heard people talking about it and it was open. So you could go do a tour where they are working. They've got a coral project going on and several animal rescues. And apparently you can walk through this center and see some of the stuff that they're doing there. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Were you there late enough to see the lighthouse come alive at night?
We did not. I've heard that's pretty cool with the lighthouse,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we did not stay. Probably about 2:00 in the afternoon, we'd had enough of the beach and we went back to the ship.
How was the service as far as like, because you were a yacht club, you were able to be kind of whisked away over to the other side of the island to your little private place there. How was that? Did they pick you up right there, like on the gangway or at the gangway and brought you, or did you have to walk outside and go to a meeting point and then board the tram and head that direction?
It wasn't far off the ship
mm-hmm. that
they picked us up and took us over there. I will say the service wasn't quite as good on the island as it was on the ship. At the restaurant, it was nice. The server was very pleasant, but it looked like he was trying to handle way too many tables. Mm-hmm. And so the service was a little slow when we were ready to get in the water. On the way home, they did not have near enough shuttles. We probably had to wait an hour, and there was just a ton of people standing outside the yacht club waiting for a shuttle, and each shuttle only held 6 to 8 people, and they're taking them back, and there were probably 50 of us standing there waiting for shuttles to get back to the ship.
How was the food in the yacht club restaurant on the island?
It was very good. They had some lobster rolls and some other really fresh seafood that was excellent.
You wrap up your day at MSC's private island. You head to Nassau. How was your day there?
We didn't really do anything in Nassau. We considered that like a sea day. And we went and hung out by the pool and enjoyed the hot tubs up there on the Yacht Club lounge. We didn't even get off the ship in Nassau. We've been there many, many times. Mm-hmm. And it was such a short cruise. We wanted to really enjoy the ship.
Have you been to Nassau since the new port development has opened?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. What do you think about that?
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot nicer than it used to be, where you had all the vendors right there trying to grab you as you left. Now it's a really nice area, and we've been to Nassau probably 3 times since the new port, and it is much nicer to go through.
That's good to hear. So you make your way back to Port Canaveral. How was the debark process being in the yacht club? Like, did you have priority there or any kind of perks?
We did, and we felt even a little guilty. You go, our steward said, take your time. You just have to be out of the room by 9, so no rush. Go to the lounge whenever you're ready to leave. And since we'd driven, we weren't fighting a flight or anything. So we took our time, slept a little late, went to the lounge, and our butler came and said, "Are you ready to leave?" And took us to an elevator, swiped a key, and we went straight down to the level where it was disembarking. Mm-hmm. And there's fairly long lines, and he walked us right up to the very front. He's like, showed us his ID, and they walked us right out, and we were through. I felt a little guilty.
If someone were to ask you, how does MSC compare against Royal Caribbean or Carnival, what would you tell them?
The yacht club was definitely an elevated experience. It was really nice. And if you have some hesitations about going MSC, I would have absolutely no hesitations if you were staying in the yacht club. It did seem to be a little chaotic at times in the main ship. I walked around. I'm a walker. So lots of times I'll just pop in my headset and go floor to floor to floor on the ship and check everything out. And there were times it did feel kind of crowded. Mm-hmm. But it was a beautiful ship. The food was good. The price point is excellent. I would definitely sail MSC again.
You mentioned it was worth it, so I take it for the price you paid of the yacht club, the value was there?
Yes. A lot of the other cruise lines that we regularly sail are a little higher priced, not for yacht club. Yacht club was a little higher priced than, say, maybe Royal or Princess. But it was, if you were staying in one of the regular rooms, even with the drink package, it was a little lower price. And that's a great way for someone to dip their toe into cruising and check out all it's got. It's still a wonderful ship to sail on.
Do you have any first-time tips to offer anyone who might be considering MSC or the Seashore?
They do offer a lot of different packages that can be very confusing. We really enjoyed having the drink package just because it was so easy to not constantly be worrying about what's our tab, how much do we have. It was all included right up front. I can't get away with taking vacations without getting a little bit of work done on vacation. Mm-hmm. So it was nice having the Wi-Fi package included. And there are packages on the regular rooms that include the drinks and the Wi-Fi. So that was really nice. I would just really pay attention to what it is that you're looking to get out of a cruise.
The last time I sailed MSC, I remember their website being a bit clunky when I was trying to check in and like get packages and such. Is it still like that, or have they fixed the user experience?
It's pretty clunky. Of course, I will say as a travel agent, I am glad to help with that.
That's certainly one of the benefits of a travel agent. I've had mine for over a decade at this point, and she has saved me thousands and probably has gotten me equal amount in onboard credit. But anyway, your biggest highlight of this 3-night sailing on MSC Seashore?
Well, staying in the yacht club, we really felt like royalty. It was not something that we normally do, so it was very fun. Felt a little bougie. Just really an upscale experience that we thoroughly enjoyed. Wrapping it all up, your final thoughts of MSC Seashore. It is a great, quick little getaway right near Orlando. So it's a great trip to couple up if you're going to Disney or Universal to do kind of a land sea. I thought that would be a perfect combo. Well, very cool, Marge. If anyone wants to check out any of the pictures you may have taken on this MSC Seashore trip, can they find them online anywhere? They can. They can check out my daughter at All for Fun Travel. All for Fun Travel. Yeah, we'll have to link that up in the show notes. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. A lot of folks who've come on the show they have talked about in the past that the service on MSC, it's very European. Obviously, it's a European cruise line, but not as friendly as, let's say, Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, what have you. What are your thoughts on that? Yes and no. The first night we went to the bar right outside the casino before we went to the theater. And they were busy, so the bartender was very efficient, and that might be considered cold. Well, we went there the same. It was just convenient. We went there the same place the second night, and the bartender recognized us, said hello, said he'd be right with us, asked if we wanted the same thing, remembered our drinks, which was really amazing. And then the third night, another bartender came over and he walked over and goes, I've got them, and got us our drinks. So I thought that was really cool and unexpected.
Margie, thank you so much for sharing your vacation with us and talking to us about your very first MSC cruise on Seashore. We sure appreciate you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,